Hello, all, and welcome to the Power to the Pinky podcast with Taylor Marbury. This is episode 15, and today we're going to go ahead and continue our CAGED system explanation, all right? Last episode, we talked about the C shape. This episode, get excited because we're going to talk about the A shape, all right? We are making our way through CAGED. Okay, so let's start first of all with the shape, okay? So we're basically going to be playing a C major chord, but with an A major chord shape. What does that even mean? Okay, so think about this. If I have my A major chord, just like my good old cowboy chord that we're used to singing and playing, right? But instead of A, what if I told you could move that shape kind of anywhere, not kind of, you can actually move that shape anywhere on the neck and you get any and every chord. So what does that really mean? That means if I take my A shape, but I constantly change my bass note, right? So my bass note is going to be on the A string for this A chord. So I have an A. If then I move up to the first and the third frets, then I get a B flat or an A sharp, then I get a B, then I get a C, then I get a C sharp or a D flat, and you can just keep it going, just keeping in mind where your bass note is, in this case on the A string there, all right? So we're going to play a C major chord with an A shape. I'm going to take my index finger. I'm basically barring, air quotes, the third frets, but I'm really only having to worry about the A string and the baby E string, okay? And then I'm going to use my middle, my ring, and my pinky to grab the fifth fret of D, G, and B, okay? So there is a kind of a spread here. There's a whole fret in between your fingers. So the shape might be a little bit tricky if you're not super familiar with doing bar chords in general, okay? So it does help really focus. Now, if you're having any trouble barring it, just keep in mind you're really only tackling, remember, like the A and the baby E there, okay? It's a bar chord, but you're only covering two strings, again, technically speaking. Sometimes you will see people play it where they just take their index and they bar it across there and then they kind of throw their ring finger across. As you can tell, I can't even get that. I don't particularly like doing that. I'm classically trained, so I go for all fingers just because it's been ingrained in my soul, but you may see that. Okay, so what notes are in this chord? Okay, so let's talk about it. We're not playing low E on this one. Our bass note is C. That's the A string, third fret. So I've got a C. Then I've got a G. I've got another C. I've got an E. And then again, I have a G on top. Now, a C major chord are the notes C, E, and G. It contains those three. Okay, C is the one, the root note, E is the third, and then G is the fifth on there, okay? So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and arpeggiate, okay? And we're going to talk about the arpeggio, one of my favorite music terms, arpeggio, the pizza and the pasta and the arpeggio. So we need a bunch of C's and a bunch of E's and a bunch of G's. All right, so for the A shape arpeggio, what we're going to do, we're going to start on the A string. Now you can see I'm using my middle here. I've got the middle, okay, on the third fret of A. That's the note C. So I've got a C. My index is then going to play the D string at the second fret. That's the note E. On that same string on D, I'm going to reach over for G. That's the fifth fret. So far I have a C, E, G. Now we're going to keep this going. We're going to go ahead and add another C. That's the G there at the fifth fret. We're going to add another E. That's going to be the B at the fifth fret. Again, all just coming from that A shape. So C, E, G, C, E, G. And you could even go just backwards from there, okay? So again, C, E, G, C, E, G. Backwards, G, E, C. Okay? And then we have a G, E, C. And then you can even grab the low E there at the third fret for the note G. Back to C. C, E, G, C, E, G, backwards. All right, and really making sure we know what notes lie where in that arpeggio is super helpful, all right? Now, there's two more things we're going to go ahead and cover with this, just kind of quick and easy little tidbits that you can practice. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and play the major pentatonic scale with the A shape here, okay? So what does that mean for us? So the major pentatonic scale of C there is going to be a C, D, E, G, A, okay? And we're going to do a 2 octave. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our guitars. Let's try that. So we're going to start with C. That's going to go ahead and be the third fret of the A string again. So I have a C. Then on that same string, play the fifth fret. That's D. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and go to the next string. That's the D string. We're going to play 2 up to 5. Okay, we got a C, D, E, G. Now we're going to go to grab an A. That's G string, okay, at the 2nd fret. And then back up to C. C, D, E, G, A, C. Let's keep it going, okay? We're going to go ahead and grab an E there, okay? Or sorry, we're going to grab a D. And then we're going to grab an E, G, A. And you could even go way up to the 8th fret and grab that C. Okay, does that make sense? Let's run through that one more time as far as what frets we're playing. So we're going to play the A string, 3rd fret, 5th fret. D string, 2nd fret to the 5th fret. G, 2nd to 5. Then we're going to go 3, 5 on the B, 3, 5 on G, on baby E. Okay? So that is position 4 of our major pentatonic stuff going on there, okay? So we're going to go ahead and fill in some more notes. So now that we've done the major pentatonic, to get the major scale is pretty straightforward here. We're just going to add a couple of extra notes. So a C major scale has no sharps and no flats. This is super really helpful information to know, okay? A C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All of our music notes from C to C, no sharps and no flats, all right? That's why it's usually the first key that we teach because, again, no accidentals there, no sharps, no flats. We can see what's going on. Okay, let's go ahead and play it. So, again, we're all basing this around the A shape. So this is a major scale pattern based around the A shape in the CAGED system here, okay? So again, got my chord there, did my arpeggio, did my major pentatonic. Okay, now we're going to just do the major scale. So let's go ahead and just talk through what we're going to play first. So the A string, we're going to go 3, 5. D string, 2, 3, 5. G, 2, 4, 5. Technically, that's a 1 octave right there. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now we're going to go ahead and keep it going. We're going to go to the B string now. Go ahead and play 3, 5, 6 on the B string. Okay. We're going to go ahead and play the C major scale. So the notes, again, like I mentioned, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So let's start with this. We're going to go to the A string. We're going to play C, D. That's 3 to 5. D string, we're going to go 2, 3, 5. Now those are the notes. E, that's 2nd fret. 3rd fret is F. 5th fret is G. Okay, so C, D, E, F, G. Then we're going to grab the G string there. We're going to go 2, 4, 5. That was A, B, C. Now that's 1 octave. Let's go ahead and make it a 2 octave. We're going to go to the B string. We're going to go 3, 5, 6. That's D, E, F. And now, last but not least, we're going to land on baby E. We're going to go 3, 5, 7, 8. There is a shift there just to make it a little bit easier for you guys, okay? So again, that's a 2 octave C major scale. Again, with our A shape, keeping all of that in mind based around that, okay? So when you guys practice this, make sure you are going through all of the different variations. Make sure you know what notes go in what scales and what notes go in what arpeggios and the chords, because that's super helpful as we go through this process. Now, one more thing I want to mention is that the C, the A shape, doesn't only have to be A major. You could do like an A sus2, right? That's with the A chord without the B string there, okay? You could do, for example, an A major 7. And then obviously all the minor variations and all of the 6s and 7s and you name it. Any variation of that works with this barring process, okay? So be sure and try out, especially as you guys learn, like A major 7's a good one to practice because you'll see that for sure. I would practice for sure the susses, all the susses, they're so sus. But all right, you guys, that's the A shape. That's going to wrap it up for that for CAGED, all right? Power to the Pinky with Taylor Marbury. Next week, we're going to talk about G. All right, guys, take care and power to the Pinky.